Hello my friends, family, esteemed colleagues. I was asked to talk a little bit about histamine and the problems with allergies. Well, we are being told that histamine is relaxing tissue, relaxing the membranes, which would also mean it would relax the blood vessels. And that problem of allergy, well, there is this battle between gen and antigen, and what would this histamine do actually here? And why do we receive antihistaminic and all of a sudden the symptoms of allergy goes down? Well, when we look at it from a perspective as we are being brainwashed in medical school, then obviously there is a huge confusion. And we cannot put two and two together because it simply does not make sense what we are being told with what is happening. And no matter what we try to do about it, nothing works. We know one thing, then symptoms of allergies trigger inflammation. Inflammation is one of the symptoms. Now, when you take antihistaminic, you basically work against the inflammation. Again, we are being told that the inflammation came as a result of this battle of gen and antigen, which absolutely makes no sense, because what has that to do with inflammation? What is inflammation? I have explained that inflammation is basically forced hydration. What happened is that blood vessels constrict locally, not in the whole body, only in places affected. So when you have allergic reaction towards something, well, that place, you can have allergic reaction to a bite. Let's say you are allergic to bee bite, bee sting, the poison. So what happened in the area? It swells. The whole body doesn't swell, the area swells. So, if the area swells, and we now give antihistaminic to actually take the swelling down. So now what we are being told in medical school, that histamine makes membranes more porous, so liquid can come out of the tissue. You can bleed because of histamine action, just relaxed blood vessels. Well, if histamine relaxes blood vessel, then antihistamine should do the opposite, should constrict blood vessels. But we know that constricted blood vessels create inflammation, so how do you deflame by doing antihistaminic? So, does that make any sense? Of course everybody is freaking confused. I have learned many years ago not to trust anything I was served while I was being indoctrinated, because obviously it does not work. So, what is happening when we have inflammation going on? Well, we said, well, there is this hormone vasopressin that constricts vessels. Okay, so antihistaminic should not be called antihistaminic. It should be called antivasopressionist, antivasopressin, not antihistamine. So I cannot use any of the medical knowledge to explain the situation because it simply does not make sense. This is why it is very difficult to counter anything that is happening. We are doing something that we give it a wrong name to treat the wrong explained situation. What we call antihistaminic are actually agents that counter the action of vasopressin. In the case of allergy, and here we always have to go, where are you given antihistaminic? Well, in allergic reactions. You cannot breathe. Your mucous tissue is swollen. You are being given antihistamine to get the swelling down. Why did the tissue swell? Well, I explain. When we have let's say, two different situations. Chronically ill people with chronic health issues, they suffer from multiple inflammatory processes in different organs, different tissues. Tissues that get this type of reaction, the inflammation, is dehydrated on a cellular level, extremely acidic, and through process of inflammation, the pressure, blood pressure of this tissue is being increased. And reason for it is to try to push more water, more plasma into the cell, so cell can then correct its acidic levels. Without water you cannot clean anything. So it's difficult for cell to push out acidity without having water. Water comes through plasma. And inflammation process occurs basically for this reason. In a case of allergy, we have a slightly different reason. The cells are dry, because if the cell is not dry, you will not have allergic reaction. Allergic reaction occurs on the skin and mucosal tissue. It's tissues which are exposed to outside elements. And if they are protected, skin is protected with layer of dead skin and then layer of cholesterol. Mucosal tissue is protected with mucus. This is why it's called mucosal tissue. Mucus is basically plasma with protein. And also has some cholesterol. So, when there is not enough protection, then foreign protein can easily get attached to a living, functioning cell. Now, this can occur on a regular basis. So if the cell is hydrated, then it will squirt some water to flush it off. Well, windshield wiper is not going to work unless you squirt some water there. So this is the mechanism. Now, if the cell is dehydrated and it cannot squirt water, and there is a protein there, well, the cell has to get first hydrated, and the protein is irritant. So how to go about it? Well, the body creates local inflammation, squirts water in those cells, so then they can flush and get rid of the allergen. Unfortunately, when we have inflammation, it causes itchiness, number one, and then if the inflammation increases, if the pressure on sensory nerve increases, the itchiness turns into sensitivity of pain. Very often you know that if you have a pimple, a little red pimple that itches, you scratch it, well, you feel better, but if you push on it with a nail and you increase pressure, it hurts. The skin around doesn't hurt, but pimple, with the itching, and then you push it, it hurts because you have increased the pressure. So, inflammation. Generally, we always batter with anti-inflammatory drugs. Antihistaminic is anti-inflammatory. So, how can, in some conditions, as we are being told in medical school, that it caused vasodilation, it relaxes blood vessels. But in a term of allergy or inflammation, it actually increases inflammation, creates inflammation by constricting the blood vessels. How does that work? Well, we are obviously fed with lots of baloney, and I stopped even paying attention to biochemistry and all this nonsense that goes around it, because it just confuses us. Obviously, it's wrong. Anyone can explain to me better how this works, I'm willing to listen. But what I have learned in medical school is a bunch of nonsense. So, in general, histamines do not produce any problem. And obviously, inflammation then is not caused by histamine if histamine is relaxing the blood vessels. So the whole concept of antihistaminic is nonsensical. Inflammation is always caused by constriction of blood vessels. Simple mechanism. You have a constricted blood vessel of a tissue. It restricts the passage of the blood. So artery that actually has receiving the blood from the heart, if you restrict, you squeeze the blood vessel, well, the pressure from that point to the heart builds up. And under higher pressure, the blood gets squirted into this tissue, but there's no problem. But vein has also constricted. So you have lower volume of the vein. So now you are still getting same amount of blood squirted in, but now it cannot go out because there is a smaller orifice. So the pressure in the tissue builds up to a certain level until it has the same pressure as the arterial blood is squirting in, and then it can go out, and this increases the pressure of the tissue to the pressure of the artery. It elevates it. This is actually what causes increased blood pressure in chronically ill people. As we are older, we are more dehydrated on cellular level, and we are becoming more acidic, and we start getting more problems with inflammations because of that reason. And this is rising our blood pressure because the backup, you have more organs affected with inflammation, you have the backup to the heart of different increased blood pressure. And it's going to be different on left hand if you measure the blood pressure. It's going to be different on one side of the body than the other side of the body. It all depends which organs are more inflamed and affected, which is then going to increase the blood pressure. And at the same time also the blood vessels themselves become rigid and dehydrated. So they cannot expand. But this is all consequence of all of this is toxic blood. No culprit to this. Consequence is what you get out of it. So we are never battling the histamine, whatever it does in the body. It's not a culprit. Vasopressin, but this is normal reaction of the body. So you don't work against the body. You find out why the body is doing this, what is causing, what is the ultimate reason why this occurs in the body, and you get rid of this problem. Now you cannot prevent foreign proteins to come to come in contact with your body, because pollen is all over the place in pollen season. You have pets, there's hair, there's pieces of skin, their oils, it's all over the place. So if you are allergic, well, you will become allergic little by little to everything, to life. And because you are dehydrated on cellular level and you have no protection, you don't have enough cholesterol, or you are because you are overly bathing with the soaps and dissolving this cholesterol, getting rid of it. You're not hydrated enough, you're not producing enough mucus. And you are using the wrong food. So all these things are creating problems. But the worst problem is actually caused by the inability of the body to cleanse. And it cannot cleanse when it does not have enough plasma. And it doesn't have enough plasma when it doesn't have enough minerals. And again, broken record, minerals do not come in our body by eating vegetables. They come by consuming salts and minerals. And these minerals come from living tissue of animals, because animals cannot survive without having minerals. So you eat them and you absorb them 100%. When you eat plants, you absorb nothing, because it's all basically trapped in a fiber of cellulose, which you cannot digest. And then if you cook it, well, the problem comes because you are releasing now glucose, carbohydrate, glucose coming directly into your bloodstream, changing your genetic action. This is the forbidden food, biblical forbidden food. No doubt about it. We should never be in touch with this stuff. So, I cannot explain, using medical knowledge, I cannot explain why we need antihistaminic. Because histamine obviously is not doing what we are being told it does. It is more of vasopressin. So the whole terminology is completely out of whack. But again, the cabal inverts and converts, changes everything. For them, God is demon. Lucifer is God. What is good is bad. What is bad is good. So, it doesn't surprise me that this is what we are being told in medical school, and it doesn't surprise me why no doctor knows, have no clue actually how things work, because we go back to the biochemistry and to the complicated formulas explaining da-da-da, and this is this, and this is combining with this, and this is why things happen the way they don't happen. It just doesn't happen the way we're being told. Do not take antihistaminics because you are working against your body. Your body is inflamed for a reason. I have mentioned the reasons, the two biggest reasons. Of course, injury will create immediate inflammation. It's a defense mechanism. Constrict, not relax, constrict blood vessels. So this way, you create higher pressure of artery, so it squirts out and washes the injured tissue, and you have decreased the veins, so less can come back into circulation. So you basically are washing your wound when you are wounded. So everything points that things are contrary to what we are being told in medical school. But who's observing and who's thinking? Nobody is thinking. Not only doctors, but in general, nobody is thinking. We are just repeating what we are being told. So, the trick is not using antihistamines. Trick is in understanding the body and help the body to cleanse. The basic problem is always toxicity. And blood has to be well hydrated. You cannot have thick blood. We are being given blood thinners. Well, they're anticoagulants. Why? Because doctors say, well, you have a thick blood. So dilute it. Make it thinner. Drink plasma. You have thick blood because it's dry. You still have those white blood cells and red blood cells and platelets and all the proteins and hormones and everything is there, but you don't have plasma. But nobody is checking plasma. Doctor says, well, yeah, well, you have thick blood. Thick blood is dehydrated blood. You take a milk, you start dehydrating it, it gets denser and denser and denser. Condensed milk. Same shit happens with blood. Nobody's thinking. Okay, my friends. So, don't worry about histamines and antihistamines. Make sure that you hydrate well, so your body can cleanse. It cannot cleanse without water. It cannot hold water without having plasma. And you need to drink plasma, not water, when you want to raise your plasma levels. And the plasma of our body is water with minerals that will keep the ionic electroconductivity. And the same thing you get by drinking seawater, diluted seawater, water with sea salt. This is why we are told not to have salt, so we keep our bodies from cleansing. Remember, it's always opposite from what we are being told. Thank you for listening. Till next time. Love you all.